Welcome to richplanet.net, the programme which aims to uncover the truth behind the alien and UFO mystery. I'm Richard D. Hall, and this week's programme is about alien abduction. It's well documented that thousands of people around the world claim to have been taken by alien visitors and then interfered with in the most disturbing manner. Usually the abductee experiences missing time, which is a gap in their memory timeline during which their abduction took place. Their accounts are often dismissed by others as dreams or fantasy. Let's start by looking at one of the most famous UK abduction cases, the Alan Godfrey case of 1980. Godfrey was a West Yorkshire police constable and vividly remembers a UFO descending and hovering in front of his police car. Detective Constable Gary Heseltine explains.
In 1980, when he had his sighting, and then he had a period of missing memory, which he didn't realise at the time. And this is really before missing time as a phenomena of the abduction phenomena was known as a sort of like a common theme. The X-Files came along in the early 90s, that exploded, and a lot of those cases on the first few series were based on UFO type, abduction type scenarios. This predated that with Godfrey. He has his conscious memory, which is the drawing, the sketch plan, trying his radios, it's in front of him, the headlights are bouncing off the object that's rotating anti-clockwise, the top half is like got darkened windows, and it's 5 feet off the ground, it's 20 feet by 14 feet in diameter. That's his conscious memory. You see, what happened was there was this missing period because his conscious memory is he's drawing his sketch, and then the next conscious memory he has is that he's 50, 100 yards down the road. Where's it gone? Yeah. He was a very reluctant witness. He did not want to go under hypnosis initially. He was talked into it by Harry Harris, who'd gone to see him probably a couple of months after his sighting. And that is actually on video. Harry Harris filmed him, that first meeting with him. And he went with a couple of other people. And initially, Alan's reaction is a down-to-earth, nah, I'm not interested type of thing. And then eventually he realised that there was some missing time that he couldn't explain. And Harry Harris said, well, I'll pay for you to go to a professor. He was aware of the abduction phenomenon. When he put the timeline together, said, well, there's something missing there. And eventually he decided to have the hypnosis, and he had 4 sessions in total, about 3 months apart in 1981. The first wasn't on video, the last 3 sessions were. It went, I think, Professor Blair, Professor Jaffe, Professor Blair, Professor Jaffe, alternated. The first time he was hooked up to like heart monitors and things like that, not on video. And when he was, this story emerged, and the significant thing there was that Harry Harris gave the professor, who was from Manchester University, a cold brief. He didn't tell him it was UFO related whatsoever. Just said, this guy has had some sort of like psychological block, can you try to unravel it? This incredible tale emerges, and this is the subconscious memory. And the subconscious memory was that having done the sketch, he gets out of the police car and starts to walk towards the object. He then becomes frightened, he then goes to seek the sanctuary of the car, and just as he's getting in the car, intense bright white light, he finds himself in a room. Small creatures that he describes as lamp heads, bulb heads, 3 to 4 feet high, were putting things on his legs. He's in this room. He then sees a humanoid character wearing a skull cap and a gown, who approaches him and speaks to him telepathically. That's it, basically. To this day, he will say, I have no memory of what emerged through hypnosis.
And does he recall, because he split his shoe, didn't he? Does he recall how he split his shoe?
He didn't know, no. But one of the this is why it's significant in terms of the abduction phenomena as a whole, and certainly in terms of Britain's history of the abduction phenomena. one of the common characteristics that have happened since is that there are often cuts, marks on shoes and things like that. Now, he had put a new pair of boots on literally a couple of days before. It wasn't split. In his conscious memory, when he got home, he found that the split, took his boot off, and he found that there was like a penny-sized red mark under his foot, just about there. Yeah. And it was irritating, it was itching him, so much so that he went to the doctor, who gave him some cream, and it disappeared after about 7 days. Now, when we look in the bigger picture of what we know about abduction phenomena now, marks are often left on the body, and that is not unusual. But in 1980, certainly in Britain, I don't think really of anybody other than the most ardent UFO enthusiast would have known anything about British abductions, because I can't think of really any case at that time that had been reported in Britain. Of course, there were the famous Barney and Betty Hill abduction case from '61 and the Villa Boas case from '57, and obviously there was Travis Walton from the mid-70s. But this case was unique to Britain, and certainly has now what we consider all the criteria. It had missing time, it had physical marks, and it follows the classic pattern of being taken, bright white light, taken into a room, being medically examined by small creatures. And that was way before the X-Files. So in its historical context, it's very good. Now, what backs that up as not just an abduction experience is the fact that we have Alan Godfrey has his sighting. He's a lone officer. An hour before, we have 3 West Yorkshire officers up on the moors at Keighley who see a blue in zigzag movements, last seen heading in the direction of Todmorden. 5 minutes before Alan Godfrey has his sighting, school caretaker in Todmorden sees the object heading in the direction low over the school, heading in the direction where Alan Godfrey had his sighting. About a year after Alan Godfrey's sighting had hit all the media, he got a letter out of the blue from 2 traffic officers who were based at Littleborough, which is just down the road from Todmorden, who said, look, on that night we were pulled up in a lay-by and we saw an object going in the direction of where you were, literally a few minutes before. Now, they weren't prepared to come forward because they saw all the kind of Godfrey had.
About 6 months before Godfrey's abduction, another bizarre incident occurred in the West Yorkshire town of Todmorden. Polish immigrant Zygmunt Adamski was a coal miner at Lofthouse Colliery, which is over 30 miles from Todmorden. In the middle of summer at 3:30 in the afternoon, he went out to get some potatoes. The next day, he was due to attend a family wedding, which he was looking forward to. His body was found 5 days later in Todmorden next to the railway line. He was lying on his back on top of a 12-foot coal stack without a shirt. PC Alan Godfrey was one of the first officers to attend the scene to investigate. It was found that he had died of a heart attack and had peculiar burn marks on his neck and shoulders. His clothes were in good condition, and it appeared that he had not slept rough in the intervening days and had been eating healthily. Bizarrely, there was no trace of coal dust on his body, indicating that he did not climb up the 12-foot coal stack, but that he had been placed on top of it.
There is definitely a UFO link in the sense of it's a mysterious disappearance, and from what everybody has found out, he had no connection with Todmorden. His body turns up on the top of a coal stack, on his back, minus his shirt, but with money still in his pocket. It turns out he had a coronary, massive coronary. But the point is, he wasn't filthy. It was as if he'd been dropped gently onto the top of the coal stack. They're saying that with his heart in the condition it was, he would have struggled to get up like a 12-foot high coal stack, and he would have been covered in coal dust. He wasn't covered in coal dust. His face had like suction marks all over his face. And Alan Godfrey still retains a photograph that they have of that. Right. Because when he was missing...
So Godfrey had investigated that disappearance and death, basically?
Yes, yeah, he was one of the first 2 officers on the scene. They initially treated it as a murder scene. then, from Alan's perspective, he's told, no, as soon as it's a coronary, that we're not interested. But he's saying, well, how did he get there? You know, how did he get in that? Why isn't he filthy? Why is his shirt missing? Why has he got money in his pocket? There's no robbery motive.
And another piece of evidence which remains unexplained is that Adamski had a strange substance smeared on his neck which could not be identified.
He had an ointment on the back of his neck, which to this day, and has been confirmed by James Turnbull, who was the coroner for the case, that said, no, that's my watch, that said that this ointment that was found on an abrasion on his neck was sent off to the forensic laboratories at Wetherby, and they couldn't trace it on their known system of substances, which is a big, you know, Turnbull actually came out and corroborated that. So that's not just UFO enthusiasts leaping on something and changing it because it sounds spectacular. James Turnbull actually said it. He was the coroner, and he actually said in his summing up of the case, he says that if somebody said basically that it was a UFO-related type story, I would only raise one eyebrow. You know, he wouldn't be too surprised. The Zygmunt Adamski case is connected to UFOs because Alan Godfrey will say that at one point he is called into a senior officer's room and he's asked to sign the Official Secrets Act again. Now, before you join the police, you sign the Official Secrets Act, as you do when you join the military, which I've done, and I signed them again for the police. Now, you don't normally get asked to sign them again when you're in the police. And they turned over a piece of paper, and what Alan will say is, on that, you are not to talk about your UFO experience in Todmorden, and you are not to talk about the Zygmunt Adamski case. Now, if there wasn't a UFO link before, then I think in that context there has to be.
I mentioned in the previous series the possible reason for the alien abduction of human beings is to assist them in a program in which they are trying to improve their own genetic shortcomings. UFO researcher Tim Good agrees that the abduction phenomena is related to genetic engineering, but for a different purpose.
Let's just take a look at the abduction phenomenon, for starters. What is the true purpose of the abduction scenario? The aliens who are, and there are several types of aliens involved in abductions, not just the little greys as they're referred to as. There are other types, more human types have been involved in abducting. The famous Herbert Schirmer case, for example, in Nebraska, very human type beings, very similar to Homo sapiens, certain differences, but then there are racial differences here, were involved. And I think, from what I've been told, certainly the so-called grey types, the ones with the sort of almond-shaped eyes and everything, their motives are not what they indicate and what they tell people. Okay. There is a hybridization program. Hybridization is the name of the game. They've been doing that since the 1950s, as far as it seems. And I think it's diminished to an extent nowadays. That's the reports I get from around the world. But I think probably a conservative estimate would be that hundreds of thousands of people have actually been abducted. That's my opinion. Now the question is why? Well, what I have learnt regarding that scenario is that the purpose is indeed for hybridization, but it's not for our benefit. Yeah. It can be argued that it's for our benefit, but what I'm told is that it's for their own agenda, which is takeover of this planet. Now that's kind of disturbing, if it's true. I don't know it's true, I'm just saying what I have learnt. And this is obviously very, very disturbing. And apparently the hybridization program, half alien, half human, whatever the proportions are, is to make us acquiescent, less violent. I think I can see very good reasons for that. But at the same time, is it going to make us more acquiescent to what they want to do, which is to take over this planet? They need this planet. I'm sure there are several spacefaring races who need this planet. Earth is unique. Astrophysicists are absolutely right about this. Earth is unique, not obviously in the Milky Way, but for quite a ways around. And I think for donkey's years, it's a very attractive prospect to people looking for alternative planets to have bases on them or whatever.
In your book, you mention a witness who witnessed an ET, was taken on board their craft, and was told that in the alien society there
Yes.
was no need for money.
This was Sid Patrick in California in 1965. He's still alive, by the way. I find his one of the most convincing experiences, and he was investigated by the military. I've described the questions the military asked him, and one of them was, we don't want you to mention this, and particularly, you know, that they had no money in their society and everything. And when we talk about they don't have any money society, I mean, from what I've gathered from other sources, it doesn't mean to say you get something for nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds to me like...
It's not a utopia,
yeah.
You know, in terms of you can just grab what you like.
Yeah, it sounds almost like an extreme socialism or even communism, perhaps.
It might sound like that to the Americans, yes.
Okay, which is why they probably don't want to mention it.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I have heard other contactees say that.
Yes.
That
Yes.
we are the only race which actually has money, and it's used as basically as a control mechanism.
I wouldn't know about that, but, you know, we need some form of exchange and credit.
Yeah.
I mean, some of us get on very well without any money at all, but manage to spend billions on credit cards.
If Tim Good is correct, this means that many human beings born on Earth since the 1950s may in fact be the result of an alien insemination of their abducted mother. Abduction researcher Daryl Sims goes along with this view and is currently conducting DNA testing on self-claimed abductees and their offspring to find out if this is really happening. Hilary Porter is a self-claimed abductee who I interviewed recently. She believes that during her abduction experiences, which have occurred on and off since childhood, aliens may have caused her to become pregnant. In 1969, when she was 4.5 months pregnant and suffered a miscarriage, she believes the baby had been taken.
Because I was ill, you know, they said I had to have bed rest. But they held out pretty high hopes that I would, once I'd got over this difficult time, you know, I'd be okay and I'd carry till full time. But no, it was early Christmas Eve, early in the morning next day, and as in 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. A locum doctor was coming out, so say Robert was out there waiting. I managed to deliver, or at least I think I did, everything came away. And I don't remember anything other than now, looking back, I could have been taken or intervention. There was enough time for that. Because when the doctor took away everything, about 4 months later, when I was a little stronger, I went to have another checkup. And I said, could you tell me, please, you know, was my baby a boy or a girl? You know, it would help with the, you know, the fact that I'm still grieving and everything. And, you know, obviously for the future, you know, you obviously surely, you know, got to know these things. Or if they said, well, you're no good, you can't carry, you don't get yourself in that situation. She just went, flicked through some papers, and then she said, well, she said, I said...
She couldn't tell you
no,
because
possibly no, she didn't have it.
There wasn't the baby there?
No baby, no. She said, well, I've got no record, she said, of it.
Okay.
I said, you what? No. She said, there's no...
Another symptom some abductees suffer is scoop marks. These are small circular marks on the body where a piece of flesh has been removed or scooped out using a sharp instrument. We've seen the scoop marks on your arms. We'll film those later. But if you can just describe them verbally, the scoop marks, they're obviously on your forearm.
Yeah.
I can see them. You're sitting here, I can see them.
Right,
I mean, you've got at least 9 or 10 on the side of this arm here.
Right.
I can see.
Yeah.
You've got a very large scoop mark in the centre of your right forearm.
Right, and these are coming here. These are not that old, but they're going brown now, going funny.
Yeah.
you know, which is what they do.
So when they first
Right.
appeared, what colour would they be then?
They're just sort of light skin colour, really. You just, it's like a medical procedure where they've scooped with some kind of tool thing.
And you can
Bits off
clearly,
you.
you can clearly see that these marks are indented, so there is
Right.
they do look like something's been removed.
Yes, absolutely.
If aliens have the ability to completely obscure human beings' memories during these events, then we cannot be sure how many people have been interfered with. It could be far more than we think. And we were talking about the abduction phenomena earlier. You've touched on that. Have you? Do you investigate people who self-claimed abductees? Have you?
Definitely, quite a few people, yes. And I myself have had abduction type experiences. I will not say I was abducted.
Okay.
But, for example, I have experienced night paralysis, so-called, on probably several hundred occasions in the 1980s and 1990s. And together with my girlfriend, who was living with me for at that time, she herself had similar experiences at the same time. And I can tell you, it was quite disturbing. I never saw anything, but there was just this tremendous vibration in the solar plexus, accompanied by increasing paralysis, which I always managed to shake off.
Okay. So
only on 2 occasions was that happening in connection with a visual image. And the last one was the most, I would say, disturbing for me. That was only about 3 years ago,
Okay.
when I know what time I went to sleep, which was 5 to 1.
Yeah.
I put my book down. The next thing I knew, I was somewhere else. I was beside a road. I could feel the cold air on my face. I could see the sky. In the sky, lying as I seemed to be lying half like this, half sitting up from the ground level. In the sky was a grey triangle against the black, dark blue sky. Very, absolutely looked like it was glued in the sky with white lights all the way along the edges of the triangle. And suddenly I felt that same paralysis feeling that I get when I'm normally conscious or woken up by it. And I fought it again. I fought it. I refused to accept this. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in my room. I looked at the time, and 10 minutes had elapsed. All I can say is that it seemed real to me. It could have been a dream, but it seemed real.